So welcome to today's video. We are taking a look at this Winsor&Newton professional set. I've bought it a few years ago secondhand. It was only swatched once from the previous owner, so it was like new. We have the absolute standard tin, which you know probably from tons of other brands. As you can see, Winsor&Newton has extruded watercolors in their pans, and if you move it too much, then the colors will fall out. So that is definitely always a minus point in my personal opinion. I'm more a fan of poured watercolor pans. For example, Schminke does pour their watercolors like Roman Schmal, Daniel Smith, White Nights, Rosa Gallery. There are a lot of brands which do their colors poured. That means that the color, while it is still liquid, will be poured into the pan. Then you let it dry, and then because it will shrink a lot, you will pour again. In most cases you need around 4 times until the pan is really completely full in a dried version, versus like, for example, Winsor&Newton or Sennelier, which extrude their colors. You will get, like I always say, it is like a little bit like a color sausage because it is similar like when you are making sausages. And then it just this color sausage will be cut into small pieces. They let them dry and then put it in the pan. So that's the difference. And because it is not poured into the pan, it doesn't stick. Sometimes it is not really at the bottom, and therefore it tends to fall out a lot. So you always have to be careful with extruded colors. So the first color was Chinese white, PW4, light fastness 1, so best light fastness. This is a very transparent white. It is more meant to use as a mixing white if you want to make pastels. It is not really good for doing stuff like highlights or drawing a white moon. I tried it once with a Chinese white, and you need like 6 to 8 layers to really get a visible white effect on your paper. The second color was lemon yellow, PY53. Light fastness is 1 again. As you have seen, you really get very easily a very big amount of color on your brush, so they wet very easily. The lemon yellow here, it is a really opaque-ish kind of white, so it feels like it is mixed with not opaque-ish kind of white, yellow I mean, of course, but it feels like it is mixed with a white. But this pigment is just like that, so it is not because it is already pre-mixed with a white. Some yellows are like that. So the color I swatched just now, if you are buying this 24 pan set nowadays, you will get another color there, because I have here the genuine aureolin, also known as cobalt yellow, PY40. This is a very beautiful, super transparent yellow, but the problem here is that the pigment is absolutely not light fast. Funnily, it was listed from the brand as best in light fastness, but it is not. It will not fade, but it will change to a grayish brownish color, which looks rather nasty. And that's the reason why most brands don't offer a genuine aureolin nowadays. So Winsor&Newton discontinued their aureolin a few years ago. Therefore you will get another color at the place here. I was lucky to get the aureolin here because it is the only aureolin I have. If you are really interested in buying this pigment, Daniel Smith and Magello Mission Gold still offers genuine cobalt yellow. You will have to look up which one is cheaper at your place, because, for example, normally Magello Mission Gold is much cheaper, but at my place in Germany, I pay like 30 euros for 50 milliliter tubes from Magello Mission Gold, where the version from Daniel Smith is half the price. So only costs 15 euros. So if you are really, really interested in having a tube or a pan from the pigment. So the next yellow was Winsor yellow, which is PY 154. They say light fastness is 1. And the orange is Winsor Orange PO 62, which is here listed with 2, so it is a good. Where in pigment databases it is listed with light fastness 1, so best light fastness. Winsor&Newton has this tendency to name some colors in Winsor Orange, Winsor Yellow, Winsor Red and stuff like that, which I personally don't like, because I think, especially for beginners, it is a little bit confusing. For example, if you're starting with a set like that from Winsor&Newton, then you are seeing from another brand a nice color, then you buy it, test it, and then realize it looks the same as, for example, the Winsor Orange, but here it says benzimidazoline yellow. And that's why I personally don't like renaming pigments in another way, because I think, yeah, it is confusing for people who don't know the pigments very well, and you risk buying doubles, which you not want to do, because the colors are named differently. So that is a personal opinion of me, that I think it is not really helpful to renaming pigments any other way. So the red I swatched just now also is called Winsor Red, and it is a PR 254, and it is rated with light fastness 2, so good. Then the one I'm swatching now is Permanent Alizarin Crimson, and as my set is an older set, I have the PR 206 Quinacridone Maroon, which was discontinued 2 years ago. They're listed with light fastness 2. Normally it is a pigment which is rated with best light fastness. They have a few pigments here which are downgraded from excellent to good. Don't know why. But if you are buying the set today, you will get the new version with a PR 179, which is Perylene Maroon. The color looks nearly identical. They really did a great job with the Perylene Maroon to recreate the same hue of red as it was with the Quinacridone Maroon. Just so that you know, they already changed their formula in fall 22, so you only will get the PR 206 version if you are buying secondhand. So the last color here was Permanent Rose, PB19, your standard primary magenta. They also listed with light fastness 2. Normally it is also rated with excellent. I'm not quite sure why they are that careful with some of the pigments. So then now we are changing to blues. We have Cerulean Blue, PB35, light fastness is 1, so it is excellent. Very beautiful, granulating, light sky blue. And it is a cobalt pigment, so it is definitely a very expensive pigment, and that is, in my personal opinion, a plus point for the set. I like it when you have at least 2 or 3 more expensive pigments in bigger sets like 24 pans or more, because yeah, that is if you are just starting out or upgrading to artist grade and buying a set like that, it is nice to have at least 2 or 3 more expensive pigments, because in a lot of cases like that, if you really would buy all of them individually, you would buy more, you would pay more than in the set. So it's a nice way to get at least 1 or 2 or 3 more expensive pigments for a better price. So this is of course ultramarine, PB29, light fastness 1. Yeah, an absolute must-have for me. Personally, it is my most used color, and it is also my favorite color of all time since my childhood. So yeah, that's always the color which is empty the fastest in my sets. So the next is also one of the changed name, Winsor Blue Green shade, which is normally your phthalo blue green shade. They just stated it as PB15. The green shade normally is a PB15 column 3, and they rated it also with 2, so a good, which is normally excellent, a 1. So that is one of the downgraded colors. Then we have Prussian Blue, PB27. They rated it as best light fastness, like all the companies do, but this pigment sadly is not light fast. I do love it a lot. It is a very beautiful dark blue, but it is definitely not a light fast pigment. It will fade over time, not completely, normally. Maybe if you really dilute it super strong, but yeah, it is definitely a pigment that will fade over time. It has the specialty that you could put your painting back in a dark drawer or closet for a few weeks or months, and then it will recover over time, but in most cases it doesn't recover completely. And that's the reason why I personally always handle it as not light fast, because it definitely will fade. So always be careful with the Prussian Blue. Then the next color is indigo. Indigo is a pigment. Yeah, I think I've showed it because there is some white residue on mine. I don't know what it is. Indigo is a color that originally was a plant-based color, and the original one is absolutely not light fast. Therefore, nowadays all brands normally offer a mixture with modern pigments to recreate the look of the genuine indigo, but in a light fast version. But there are brands offering mixtures and they're using sometimes pigments which aren't light fast. Especially you will sometimes find the pigment PB66, which is synthetic indigo, which is as non-light fast as the genuine natural version would be. So definitely always take a look if you are using a pre-mixed indigo, if the mixture has any not light fast pigments in it. In this case, we only have light fast pigments. We have PB15, which is phthalo blue, PBK6, which is lamp black, and PB19, which is quinacridone rose. They listed it here again with a 2, which is good, but all the pigments normally are rated as excellent, so this is definitely a very beautiful and very light fast version of indigo. So the next color is again one of the Winsor colors, and they call it Winsor Violet. I think Winsor Violet dioxazine. Basically, it is a dioxazine violet. We have here the version with PV23, which is the pigment which is used the most as a dioxazine violet. There is another pigment which is also dioxazine violet, which is the PV37, which is rarely used by watercolor brands. I know that for sure that the version from Mgram is made with it, and I think that Roman Schmal has a second version with the PV37 since a year or two. So that are the only ones I know for sure at the moment. Maybe there are other brands. I, of course, not have all the brands with every color in my mind, but that's the ones I know. So we have the version, like I said, with a PV23. Sadly, both pigments aren't very light fast, so they are not completely bad, but more like a mediocre. They will definitely fade visibly over time. So I personally always handle it as a non-light fast pigment. And I wouldn't use it if you want to make any artwork that you want to hang on your wall or to gift or sell to someone else. So yeah, always be careful with it. Even when it is a really beautiful dark violet, but if you want a light fast version of this one, you can mix, for example, a phthalo blue with primary magenta, and you will get similar beautiful dark violets very easily in a light fast version. Then we have another very expensive pigment, and that is Viridian, the genuine Viridian PG18. We have here a light fastness rating from 1, and I forgot to prevent it because genuine Viridian is one of 3 pigments which I personally call, what's the English word for? I will have to Google it, sorry. Oh, why doesn't it translate? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I then swatched the next one to let it sit for a while. It is always best. So the 3 pigments that that are the only 3 I really pre-wet: genuine Viridian, Potter's Pink, and both cobalt violet pigments. Those are the 2 which are very hard, bitchy. That would be the I call it the 3 bitchy pigments. Yeah, those are always in need to get pre-wet before you before you use them, because like you have seen, if you are just going with a wet brush on it, you won't get enough pigment out of the pan. So those 3 always pre-wet. I personally recommend using either a dropper, a water dropper, or your wet brush to get some drops of water on it, especially in tins like that. Don't spritz with a water spritz bottle, because most watercolor sets are made of metal, like this one, or have at least some parts metal. And if you use a spritzer bottle, it will get everywhere and your tints will rust very easily. And yeah, then you will have to replace them maybe a year or two later, and that is just an unnecessary cost you don't have to make. For example, my very first tin is one like that from Schminke, which is 30 years old, and it still is usable nowadays because I don't use spritzer bottles. Also with spritzer bottles, you spritz like all the colors, and in my personal experience, most colors just don't need to be pre-wet, and if you pre-wet it, then you will use a lot of more pigment when you're going on with on it with your wet brush, and you would just waste a lot of color, which yeah, is just throwing your money out of the window. So the green after the Viridian is sap green, which is a mixture from PG36, which is phthalo green yellow shade, and PY 110, and it has a light fastness from one, and so best light fastness, and I think it is a very nice sap green. Then the last green is the olive green, which is a mixture of PB 15 column 6, which is a very rarely used version of phthalo blue. I think it is the phthalo blue red shade, if I'm not completely wrong. We have a PR 101, so that's probably the transparent version of the synthetic red iron oxide, and a PY 65. And it is rated with light fastness 2, and I think it is also a very beautiful olive green. Then we have the first earth color, which is yellow ochre, PY 43, so that is the natural version of the yellow iron oxide. Light fastness is excellent, and to be honest, this was the very first yellow ochre I ever bought in a tube, and it is until now one of my most loved yellow ochres still. So I really like this yellow ochre version. The color after that is raw sienna, which is a mixture of PR 101, so synthetic, probably transparent red iron oxide, and PY 42, which is the synthetic yellow iron oxide. Light fastness is excellent, and also this is a very beautiful raw sienna, which has, depending on how strong you mix the color, yellow ochre vibes to nearly a light reddish version if you are doing a really strong mess tone. Then the color I swatched just now is raw umber, and people who have often watched my videos or were often in my live stream know that normally I absolutely hate raw umbers, because they are always this greenish, brownish shade, which looks like, nasty poop brown, and that's the reason why I personally don't like it. And Winsor&Newton's version of raw umber is probably the only one I really like, because it doesn't have this greenish shade. It is also a single pigment color. It is a PBR 7. Light fastness is excellent, and it just looks like a light brownish ochre. And that's, like I said, the only raw umber I found so far, which I do like. Then their burnt sienna I swatched just now is PR 101, transparent red iron oxide version, excellent in light fastness. Burnt siennas, you either have the version we have here with a transparent red iron oxide, or you have a PBR 7 natural brown iron oxide version. If you are liking one or the other more, it's just a personal preference. They are both really good, and depending on how you are painting or what you are doing, you may have your preferences. I do like both, to be honest, depending on what I'm doing. So I like to have both versions available for me. Then burnt umber. Sadly, this is a mixture of 3 pigments. Some brands offer a single pigment burnt umber, which I personally like more, but the version from Winsor&Newton Professional is one I really love. When my 5 milliliter tube was empty a few years back, I bought the 37 milliliter tube, the big one. So I think that says a lot about that I really like the version they have here. It is a mixture of PBr7, natural brown iron oxide, PR101, transparent red iron oxide, and PY42, synthetic yellow iron oxide. And of course the PR101 is also the synthetic version. Then we have Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray is also, like indigo, a color where the original genuine version is super non-light fast, and therefore every brand does their own kind of mixture. You will have to be careful also checking the pigments, because some brands have pigments in it which aren't light fast, but here the mixture is completely light fast. We have the exact same pigments used here as in the indigo, and I would say it just has a higher amount of the PBK6, the lamp black, and we also have of course the PB15 phthalo blue and the PB19 quin rose, like I said, like in the indigo, just with a higher amount of black. Very beautiful shade of Payne's Gray. If you are interested in watching how the genuine Payne's Gray does look, then I recommend watching my Payne's Gray video, which you will find in the pigment and color family playlist. If I do remember it, I will put a link in the description box below, but if I have forgotten it, then yeah, there you can find the video about the pigment or the color, not the pigment, and how the mixture looked back then, the genuine version. So the last color is ivory black, and it is a PBK9, so a genuine ivory black. So all the vegans here watching, this is definitely the color which makes the set non-vegan, because the genuine ivory black is made from burnt animal bones. So there you have it for all those where it is important. So, of course, I will show you all the colors in the dried version as a close-up, so that you can see them better, especially that you can see, for example, from the colors like cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, the earth colors, and the genuine viridian, the granulation effect a little bit better. And yeah, my personal opinion, it is a very well-balanced set. We have a few options of yellow, of red, of blue, of the secondary colors. We have a orange, a violet, we have 3 greens, we have some earth colors and some neutrals. So overall it is, I think, a well-balanced set. I would personally have a few changes. For example, I don't need a white, like a lot of people don't need, or if I have a white in the set, I would prefer more like a zinc white, which is a very opaque white, which I could use for highlights, for example, because that's normally the only reason I use a white. Or if you want to draw something like a moon or something like that, where you really can use a white. So that is something I personally would change. I also, for my yellow, because those are my most used and my favorite yellows, either nickel azo yellow or quinacridone gold, that would be something I personally would prefer. But overall, I think it is really a well-balanced set. We have a good balance between the colors. We have from each primary multiple options. We have some secondary colors. We have a nice selection of earth colors and 2 different neutral colors. So I think it is a good set to buy if you are just starting out and haven't any colors so far, or if you say you want to level up from student to artist grade. and don't have any artist grade colors so far, then also this is a nice set to have. Funnily, normally in 24 in a 24 half pan set like that, you can't fit any additional colors in it, but I have shown it in the beginning. There is enough space that you could also fit 2 additional half pans in it, which is really nice, because if you are really saying you miss 1 or 2 colors, then you still have the place to put it in the pan, in the tin, sorry. So that is definitely a plus in my opinion. The quality of Winsor Newton Professional is very good. It is definitely one of the brands I'm using the most, next to other brands like Schminke or Daniel Smith, for example. So I have definitely nothing bad to say about the brand. The professional colors are definitely one of my favorites, and I know that a lot of people say it is a little bit, yeah, old school, and that they don't have any new and exciting colors. For example, Schminke has their super granulating watercolors, or Daniel Smith has the Primatech one. Winsor Newton is more, they have, at least so far, more the basic and standard colors and nothing super special. But in my personal opinion, not every brand has to do those special colors. It is, for me personally, it is okay if not every brand is selling like super granulating watercolors or stuff like that. And to be honest, what are the colors we use the most? Those are the standard colors. So yeah, definitely nothing terrible in my personal opinion. You do need a good standard color selection, and they definitely have that. Yeah, I would love to hear if some of you have maybe this set or have the newer version of the set. I would love to know what they changed, exchanged the Aureolin for example. And yeah, your personal opinion to Winsor Newton Professional. Is it a brand you like or don't like? What of the colors do you really like from the brand or dislike from the brand? Or haven't you tried it so far? So yeah, or what is your personal opinion about the set, about the color selection? What would you change? Would you change if you had the set, for example? And yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, a thumbs up or a follow is very much appreciated, because it really helps me in the channel. So thanks a lot for that, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and to see you soon in one of my other videos. Bye bye.